John Coltrane was an American jazz saxophonist. He was born in 1926 in North Carolina, and he studied music and learned various instruments in his youth. In 1945, he joined the Navy, and this was his first big experience as a performer, apparently. He joined a Navy band called the Melody Masters. But despite being very involved, he had to be billed as a guest performer to avoid complications because he was black and the band were officially a white band. However, by the time he left the Navy service in 1946, he was leading the band. He had a long career in jazz sax. He worked with names like Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk. He got into free jazz. So between 1957 and his death in 1967, he led at least 50 recording sessions and guested on many more. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was my first listen to this album. Of course, I've heard of John Coltrane. I've reviewed some of his stuff before, but I'm pretty sure I've not listened through this album before. It's most definitely an album of free jazz. At play here, there are John Coltrane on sax, there's a piano, there's drums, and there's a bass. Sometimes, or maybe all the time, there's actually two saxes, so there's another saxophonist and another drummer. And mostly this is free jazz of the play like a deaf demented baboon type. Sometimes it's free jazz with some obvious skill and some individual musical bits going on, but they mostly don't tie together with each other, which is part of the point, I understand, with free jazz. There's a variety of textures, including some more mellow stuff. There's a bass solo, which is fairly engaging, and that's quite mellow. Sometimes the two sax players are mirroring each other or playing off each other, so there's obvious connection going on there. So I played a bit of the first track to my son and my wife, and the description that they came up with was that it's like a Chinese traffic jam with a scared cat on a piano and a marching band rhythm section that's been startled by a duck. So I think it's fair to say that they found that amusing but didn't really enjoy it. The track Consequences, later on, I was definitely reminded of, or the thing that came to mind is that possibly this is the consequences of distressing a donkey quite badly, because there's a lot of sounds that sound like a donkey in distress. So possibly this is an observant social commentary on the crumbling taboos of and increased chaos in politics and religion in the 60s, causing us to reflect on our own freedom or lack of it. Possibly it's an experiment pushing the boundaries of music in order to draw attention to those boundaries. Possibly it's a discordant, elitist, inaccessible mess not suitable for listening to. Possibly it's all three. I don't really know. I would say it's not. I didn't find it a pleasant listen. It's challenging, and I do sometimes wonder how much music like this is just, to some extent, taking the mickey. I recognise that around kind of earlier in the 60s and late 50s, contemporary classical music had gone at times down this route, and jazz seemed to follow suit. Maybe there was something in the air at that point that caused people to go on these wild experimentation things, but it produces music that's kind of outside the normal sphere of what an average listener might want to listen to. So for most people, including me, this is not a pleasant listening experience. Please tell me what you think. And the comment box is a great way to do that. That's it from me for now.